You worked hard for this life, so why does it feel empty sometimes? Why does success feel good and then fade so quickly? And why do you keep chasing more without ever feeling like it's enough? There's a reason for this, and once you see it, everything changes. You worked for this life, not casually, not accidentally. You thought about it, planned it, adjusted along the way. You made decisions that felt responsible. You stayed consistent when it wasn't exciting. You chose stability over chaos. And over time, things started to come together. A better job, more clarity, more control. From the outside, it looks like progress, and in many ways, it is. But there's something you don't say out loud, something that doesn't match the picture. Because if you're honest, this life you worked for doesn't feel the way you thought it would. Not fully or consistently. Not in the way you imagined during all those years of effort. At some point, you created a picture in your mind. No, a version of the future where things would feel different. You told yourself, once I get there, it'll make sense. Once the job is better, once the income is stable, or once life becomes more structured, then things will feel right. There will be a sense of arrival, a quiet satisfaction, maybe even a sense of relief, like something inside you finally settles. And for a while, that belief keeps you moving forward because it gives meaning to effort. It gives direction to sacrifice. It turns hard work into something that feels worth it. And eventually, you arrive. Not in a dramatic moment, but gradually. You notice it in small ways. Things that used to feel far away are now normal. What once felt like progress is now routine. You've reached places you once worked toward, and for a moment, there is a sense of satisfaction, a quiet acknowledgement. You did it. You got here. But that moment doesn't last. Not as long as you expected. Not as deeply as you imagined. It fades quicker than it should. And that's where the confusion begins, because nothing is wrong. Life is not falling apart. You're not struggling in a visible way. But something feels off, not broken, just incomplete. You go through your day. You do what needs to be done. You handle responsibilities. But underneath all of that, there's a quiet absence of something, a lack of depth, a lack of excitement. And it's hard to explain, because if someone asked you what's wrong, you wouldn't have a clear answer. You still experience moments of satisfaction, but they don't stay. You complete something important. You solve a problem. You move forward in some measurable way. And for a brief moment, it feels good. There's a small lift, a sense of progress, but almost immediately, your mind moves on. The feeling fades. The moment closes, and you're back to neutral, back to the same baseline. So naturally, you set another goal, because that's what you've always done. You think maybe the next step will feel different. So you aim higher, work more, push further, and for a while, that gives you direction again, but the pattern repeats. You achieve. You feel something, and then it disappears. Again, and again, and again, until eventually, you start to question the pattern itself. That's when the real question shows up, not about your job, not about your goals, but about something deeper. You start asking yourself, why doesn't success feel the way it should? Why does it feel incomplete? Why do I keep moving forward, but not feeling fulfilled? And these questions are uncomfortable because they challenge something fundamental, the idea that success leads to satisfaction, the idea that effort leads to meaning, the idea that progress leads to fulfillment. And this is where something important begins. Because for the first time, you're not just chasing the next thing, you're questioning the entire direction. You're starting to notice that the problem might not be your effort. It might not be your discipline. It might not even be your goals. It might be something deeper. Something about how your mind works. Something about how it responds to achievement. Something that was always there, but you never stopped long enough to see it. It often shows up in very ordinary moments, not during something dramatic, not during a big life event, but in the middle of a normal day. You're sitting at your desk, looking at your screen, doing something you've done 100 times before, and suddenly, there's a strange pause. Not because you don't know what to do, you do, but something inside you feels disconnected. You're working, but not engaged. You're moving, but not invested. It's like your actions are continuing, but your attention isn't fully there, and you can't quite explain why. Or it shows up on weekends. You finally have time, no pressure, no deadlines, no urgent responsibilities. The kind of space you used to look forward to, but instead of feeling excited, you feel restless. You scroll. You switch between things. You try to relax. But something doesn't fully settle. There's no urgency, but there's also no depth. Nothing really pulls you in. Nothing holds your attention. And by the end of the day, it feels like time passed, but nothing was experienced. So your mind naturally looks for something else, something new, something better. You think, maybe I just need a change, a new goal, a new project, a new direction. And for a while, that idea feels energizing because novelty creates momentum. It gives you something to chase, something to focus on, something that feels different. But after some time, even that starts to fade. And you realize it wasn't the thing that changed. It was just the pattern repeating. You see it in smaller ways too. You buy something you wanted, something you thought would feel meaningful. You wait for it. You imagine it. You think about how it will feel when you finally have it. And when it arrives, there is a moment, a brief lift, a small sense of satisfaction. But then, very quickly, it becomes normal. It blends into your environment. It stops feeling new. And whatever you thought it would add doesn't stay. And then there's comparison. You see other people, different lives, different timelines, different outcomes. And even if you don't consciously compare, your mind does it automatically. You start to measure, not just what you have, but how it feels compared to others. And sometimes, you realize something uncomfortable. Even when you're doing well, it doesn't feel like enough, because someone else is doing more. And suddenly, your progress feels smaller. Your achievements feel less significant. Not because they are, but because your reference point changed. There's also a specific kind of moment that tends to reveal everything. A quiet evening, no distractions, no urgency, no immediate task, just you and space. And in that space, the question becomes clearer. You sit there, not unhappy, but not fulfilled either. And that's when the realization starts to form. Something about the way you've been living, isn't creating the feeling you expected. At this point, it's easy to misunderstand what's happening. You might think, maybe I chose the wrong path. Maybe I need something completely different. Maybe this isn't the right life. But that's not always true, because the feeling you're experiencing is not necessarily about what you're doing. It's about how your mind processes what you're doing. It's about how quickly it adapts, how it normalizes, how it moves forward without stopping. And that changes things, because once you start noticing this pattern, you begin to see it everywhere, in work, in goals, in purchases, in relationships, in progress. You see how quickly something meaningful becomes ordinary, how something exciting becomes expected, and how something new becomes invisible. And that's when a deeper realization starts to form. Not about your life, but about your mind. What you're experiencing is not random. It's not personal, and it's not new. It's a pattern that shows up whenever the mind gets used to something faster than it understands it. Because the human mind has a very specific tendency. It adapts constantly, quietly, and without asking permission. Think about anything in your life that once felt significant. Your first job, your first salary, your first real sense of independence. At the time, it felt meaningful. It felt important. It felt like something had changed. But over time, it became normal. Not because it lost value, but because your mind adjusted to it. And this adjustment happens faster than we expect, because the mind is not designed to stay impressed. It's designed to normalize, to stabilize, to bring everything back to a baseline so that you can keep functioning, keep moving, keep adapting. But there's a side effect to this. The faster your mind adapts, the shorter satisfaction lasts. At any moment, your mind has a baseline, a level of normal, a level of expectation, a level of what feels just okay. And every time you achieve something, that baseline shifts upward, quietly, without you noticing. So, what once felt like progress becomes the new normal. And once it's normal, it stops feeling special. So, naturally, you look for the next step. Something slightly bigger, something slightly better, because you believe that the next level will feel different, more complete, more satisfying, more meaningful. But here's the problem. Your expectations are rising at the same time. And when expectations rise faster than satisfaction, a gap appears. A gap between what you achieve and what you feel. And that gap is where emptiness begins. Not because your life is empty, but because your expectations are no longer aligned with reality. Most people misunderstand this moment. They think, I need more. More success, more progress, more change. But more doesn't solve the problem. Because the issue isn't how much you have. It's how your mind processes what you have. And there's something even deeper happening. You weren't just chasing success. You were chasing what success represents. Recognition, validation, a sense of being enough, a sense of being seen, a sense of finally arriving somewhere. But those things don't come from the outcome itself. They come from how you interpret it. And this leads to one uncomfortable truth. Success was never designed to make you feel fulfilled. It was designed to move you forward, to create momentum, to solve problems, to build structure. But fulfillment comes from something else, something slower, something less measurable, something that doesn't depend on constant progress. And once you start to see that difference, everything begins to shift. So, what do you do with this? What do you do when you realize that the thing you've been chasing was never designed to make you feel complete? The instinct is to react, to change something quickly, to fix it. But this is not something that gets solved by doing more. It begins by pausing. For the first time in a long time, you step back, not physically, but mentally. You stop measuring your life only in terms of progress. You stop asking, what's next? And instead, you begin to ask something different. What actually matters? And that question changes everything. Because when you stop focusing only on outcomes, you begin to notice experiences, moments that were always there but never fully felt. A conversation, a quiet evening, a small moment of clarity. Things that don't look important, but feel different when you actually pay attention to them. And slowly, very slowly, something begins to return. Not excitement in the way you expected, but something quieter, something steadier, a sense of presence, a sense of being here, instead of constantly moving forward. Because there's a difference between chasing something and experiencing something. Chasing keeps you moving, but experiencing allows you to feel. And for a long time, you've been moving without stopping long enough to feel. So maybe the problem isn't success itself. Maybe it's how we define it. If success only means progress, you will always feel like something is missing, because progress never ends. There is always another step, another level, another comparison. But if success includes experience, presence, meaning, then it becomes something different. Think about it like this. If you're always climbing, you never actually arrive. You're always looking up, always measuring distance, always thinking about the next step. And even when you reach somewhere, you immediately look higher. That's what creates the feeling of emptiness. Not failure, but endless movement. But what happens? If you stop climbing for a moment, if you step off, even briefly, and just stand where you are, that's where something shifts. Because for the first time, you're not trying to go somewhere else. You're actually here. And in that stillness, you notice something you've been missing. Not externally, internally. A sense of space, a sense of quiet, a sense that life is happening, even when nothing is changing. Because feeling doesn't come from constant movement. It comes from contrast, from pauses, from moments where nothing is competing for your attention. And those moments have been disappearing. Not because life removed them, but because you stopped noticing them. So instead of asking, how do I achieve more? The better question becomes, how do I experience more of what's already here? And that question changes your direction completely. Because when you slow down, you reconnect. Not with goals, not with outcomes, but with your own experience, your own thoughts, your own sense of being. And that connection is something success alone can never give you. It shows up in small ways. A conversation that feels real. A moment of silence that feels peaceful. A simple experience that actually lands not because it's big, but because you're present for it. And for the first time in a long time, there's no rush, no urgency to move forward, no pressure to achieve something immediately, just a quiet sense that this moment is enough. And that feeling is different. It's not intense, it's not overwhelming, it's not dramatic, but it's real, and it stays longer because it doesn't depend on the next thing. That's when you begin to understand something important. Success didn't stop feeling good because something went wrong. It stopped feeling good because it was never meant to be the final answer. And once you see that, you stop putting pressure on it. You stop expecting it to give you something it can't. And in that moment, you let go of an expectation you didn't even realize you had. And what replaces it is something lighter, something quieter, something that feels like freedom, not from effort, but from expectation. Now you're not chasing success to feel something. You're using it to support a life you can actually experience, and that's a completely different direction. Because the goal was never to keep climbing forever. It was to reach a point where you could finally stop and live. So if success stopped feeling good, it's not a failure. It's a signal that you've reached a point where something deeper is needed. Not more achievement, but more awareness. Not more progress, but more presence. And that realization is not loud. It doesn't arrive suddenly. It settles quietly over time, because maybe success was never supposed to fulfill you. It was just supposed to bring you here. And what you do next is not about achieving more. It's about finally feeling the life you already built.